we've got about 150 people on.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, welcome to Tarquin's tasting evening and cocktail making event. My name is Phil. I'll be your host this evening. I'm talking to you from London, but we'll be going down to Cornwall and then back up to me, then back down to Cornwall again several times over the evening. So we're going to see Tarquin in his distillery. He'll be talking through the perfect Tarquin's G&T, I do believe. And then he'll be telling us a bit about the distillery. We'll go to cut to another part of Cornwall, where we'll be seeing Chris, who will be showing us some fantastic cocktails. Now, I've been contacted a lot by people this afternoon, fretting about whether they got the right ingredients, whether they got all the ingredients. Listen, I'm at home. I haven't got some of the ingredients, so hopefully I'll be bluffing it along with some of you guys. And Chris will be helpfully telling us if we don't have some of the ingredients, what we can replace them with. So really don't stress. For those people who've got all the ingredients, well done. That's very well done, especially under these circumstances. And let's make as good a job of these cocktails as we can. And believe you me, I used to work behind bars for 15 years. Sometimes you just have to busk, as we say. So if you haven't got all the ingredients, don't worry. So a little bit of housekeeping for us. We are going to be running a competition as we did 2 weeks ago when we went to Greenstown Ridge. And it's going to be the same format for those people who are on before. We're going to say a word or a phrase 3 times. It's going to be something potentially unusual. Potentially it's not unusual. But the first person to notice the phrase being said 3 times and puts it into the chat. And for those people who don't know where the chat is, it should be at the bottom of your screen, just around there. So you've got to say it 3 times. It's got to be said 3 times. It could be me, it could be Chris, it could be Tarquin, it could be someone else saying this word or phrase 3 times. You've got to keep an ear open for it. And on the 3rd time, put in the word which you think it is, or the phrase which you think it is, and you will win a bottle of Tarquin's. So that's one bit of fun. Please, for those of us, those of you who are savvy on social media, please start using your hashtags. So it's Tasting Live. We've had great response over the last couple of tastings with people tweeting photos of their cocktails, of what they're doing, you know, bottles of Tarquin's, etc. So please get that out on socials with the hashtag live. And if you were really, really nice to us, please follow us at Sipping Rooms, which is the new format which we're launching at the moment. So without any further ado, I think we should pop down to Cornwall. There are a lot of people, right? I'll just check 1 second. There are a lot of people who have joined us now. So yeah, we're zooming up. We've got about 230 odd joined us. So I think it's about time we should go down to Tarquin and his distillery and say hello to him. He's going to take us through the drink which he's got, which I believe is a Quarantini. But anyway, over to you, Tarquin, and yeah, let's start drinking. Hi, Tarquin.
Hi, thanks, Phil. Hi, I'm Tarquin Leadbetter, founder of Tarquin Gin. Welcome to Cornwall. You're joining our first virtual gin tasting. And as Phil said, we're going to take you through the perfect Quarantini, little distillery tour, background to Tarquin's Gin. And you'll see us popping up in 3 different locations over the next hour or so. And thanks very much for joining. So, yeah, I started Tarquin's Gin back in 2012. I'm 32 now.
In my hand.
gin. Join me and
I was brave for the nurse, so
then we need 50 mils of Tarquin's gin. I believe you should have a bottle of this lovely dry gin with you. And so 50 mils is a good double measure. Going for some Fever-Tree, I've gone for a light tonic, which really lets the gin shine through. It's lovely, lovely and delicate. So I'm thinking ratio of about 3 or 4 to 1 in this one. And for the perfect Tarquins, we're going to garnish with some pink grapefruit. So I've got this beautiful, these giant slices of grapefruit. Cut them as big as you can, biggest grapefruit you can. Whack that in very carefully. And I've also got some beautiful fresh thyme picked from the garden. And thyme seems it's flowering spring. I've got these beautiful flowers on the thyme as well. I don't know if you can see them coming quite close. And that is the perfect garnish. It's herbal, it's citrusy, it's quite exotic. And so as they say, it means bottom up in Cornish. They say, yeah, just pour yourself a nice measure at home, have a sip, join me for a drink. And I'll also let you know in a little known fact. So if you grab your bottle of Tarquins and you turn it upside down, you'll notice there's also something written on the base of it. In the bottom of the bottle, it again says Jäger's Dar, which, like I said, means bottoms up. Cheers, salute. And so now I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into making gin. I started this distillery way back in 2012 when I was about 24. Now, how does a 24-year-old end up being a craft distiller? So I'll tell you the journey. So when I was before university, I was really keen and passionate about food and drink. I went on to do a Le Cordon Bleu cooking course. I cooked in France. And then after university, I ended up working in a desk job in London, yearning to do something more creative in food and drink. I actually quit that job to set up a quick service Thai restaurant in London. And I'd never worked in a restaurant before, but I was so passionate about flavors and combinations and doing something unique. And I actually, to write the business plan, I took a job in Notting Hill, which is food. And I worked there for 6 months behind the bar whilst I wrote the plan, learned about hospitality. And after the 6 months, realisation restaurants,
the Zoom thingy,
particularly in London, and I managed to work with all these amazing beers, wines, and spirits. Being from the West Country, we've always had micro or craft, real ales, we've had ciders for generations. But spirits was very much a domain dominated by about 3 big multinationals behind the back bar. So when I started to read in about 2012 about the American craft whiskey boom and seeing that you can actually make spirits on a tiny batch, which might sound fairly common now, but back in 2012, this is unusual. And so I just thought this ability to make a small batch of spirit sounded like the absolute dream. My grandfather was a brewer, so I took inspiration from him. And to be able to combine this new idea with moving back to the West Country, combine my passion for food and drink, I thought was absolutely incredible. I told a few of my friends, and they thought I was crazy. They're like, I think we've got enough gin, mate. Do we really need more gin brands? But you know, it really was the dream for me. And on paper at that time, I was probably quite naive. The thought was, I could go and live by the sea in Cornwall, go surfing in the morning and make a few bottles of gin in the afternoon. That was the dream to me. And what I did, it took me about a year in planning and research. And I didn't have a background in distilling. I did a humanities degree. I was never particularly a scientist. So as a good entrepreneur or a good amateur enthusiast, what I do, I logged onto the internet, joined ADI distilling forums, and read absolutely everything I could about gin distilling. And the really interesting thing about it is this has been an industry dominated by about 3 global companies for the last 100 years. All of their how they make gin is very much in-house. It's proprietary knowledge. So it's very much an industry of smoke and mirrors. There's misinformation. No one wants to let you know how to make this delicious spirit. And so I set out on this incredible adventure over the next 12 months, not only working out the licensing and the complexities around that, but also how to use one of these little things and create delicious spirits. And I'll get into the story in a little bit after a cocktail crit. I started off using vodka that I bought down in the cash and carry in Newquay, and combining it with all the botanicals that I could find, anyone I could get under the sun, and distill it on my cooker at home to make what 8 years later, what you're drinking today in your glass, is a bottle of Tarquin's gin. So it's really been quite the the extraordinary journey. I was probably one of the youngest distillers in the UK at the time to get involved in this. And I think quite naive to get into it from the beginning, but it's a whole journey. And hopefully, over the next hour, I'm going to be able to share some anecdotes, the stories, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. But I think it's probably quite time for you to join Chris in making the first cocktail of the night. So over to you, Chris.
Hi guys. Hi guys. Yeah, my name's Chris Jarrett. I'm a Cornish barman. I've been bartending for about 5 years down in Cornwall. I work for a company called Pollock's Pubs. We have 5 venues around Cornwall. We've got the Long Store, which is our flagship, Bustopher Jones in Truro, 12 Beach Road in Newquay, the Sharks in Mevergissi and the Golden Lion. Obviously, down in Cornwall, we're really keen on using as much. I've been using Tarquin's behind the bars for a number of years, and it's so brilliant to be down here and have one of your local gins as a super premium gin in the market. And it's such a versatile gin for bartenders as well. It holds up so well in classics, Negronis, martinis, and yet it's a bartender's friend when using with lots of different styles, lots of different flavors as well. So I've created 3 drinks that we Phil's going to be making them alongside me as well. So without further ado, we'll get involved in the honey puffin, which is our first cocktail of the evening.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm going to try and attempt to make it with you. Now, I was behind a bar for 15 years, but I'm a bit rusty, and I think a lot of other people are going to be a bit rusty as well. So let's just go with that. And guys, a little bit of housekeeping. If anybody is unmuted, please mute yourself, because I think there's so many people on the platform. There's still people who aren't unmuted. So I think most people are, but occasionally I hear somebody in my ear, and it's a little bit annoying. But Chris,
you're muted.
Perfect. No worries. What I'll do first, I'll run you through a few bits of equipment that we're going to be using this evening. So first thing first, we have a shaker, a cocktail shaker. Now, if you don't have one of these at home, you can use something like a protein shaker, if you've got one of those, or a jam jar with a really tight lid, or a mason jar, anything that you can hold together with some ice in it and shake really hard without anything coming out. That'll give you the level of dilution that you're looking for. A jigger or a measure. Now, you can either get them singular. This one measures 25 ml at the top and 50 ml at the bottom. As part of my equipment, I've also got a Hawthorne strainer. Obviously, these are a bit of technical bar kit, but you can use anything like a whisk, anything that's going to block the end of your tier, some of the liquid to come through, stopping any sort of bigger chunks. I've got a hand sieve. Again, a tea strainer or a coffee strainer, anything with some sort of fine mesh in it. And this is to catch any little finer bits or small bits of ice that come through as well. And then finally, a bar spoon and a Mexican elbow, or any kind of juice squeezer, really. If you want to juice your citrus beforehand, that's brilliant. If not, we're going to do some of that on the night tonight as well. So, honey puffin, obviously this cocktail named after the puffin in the bottle of the Tarquin. So to begin with, we're starting with our gin. So we're using 50 ml of the Tarquin's Cornish Dry. And then it's going to be 10 ml of any white vermouth. I'm using Cinzano Bianco, Martini Bianco, any of those sort of white vermouths would be absolutely perfect. So 10 ml of vermouth. Perfect. And then, so this is a homemade honey syrup. The recipe for this is basically 3 parts honey to 1 part water. The water just kind of lets the honey down a little bit, otherwise it can be quite sticky, and if it's going straight into cold, to a cold tin with ice, it sometimes won't mix as well, so we try and dilute just a little bit, and that will give you the right balance against the citrus that you're using as well. So 25 ml of your honey syrup. And then we've got some freshly squeezed grapefruit juice as well. And so we're using 25 ml of our grapefruit juice. You can use grapefruit from the bottle if you want to, but it's just sometimes the pure stuff from the actual fruit itself.
Yeah, Chris, I had lots of people asking me today what could they use if they didn't have certain ingredients. So I don't have grapefruit juice at home. Is there anything like an orange, or what else could you use in this instead of grapefruit?
You could use lemon juice instead. What this drink is basically trying to recreate as a classic highball. We're just sort of changing the citrus from lemon to grapefruit, excuse me, and then we're using an alternative sweetener in the honey as well, where we would use a normal sugar syrup.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, any kind of citrus will really, really work in here. This drink itself, the honey puffin, is based on grapefruit, but if you wanted to use lemon juice, a similar amount, 25 ml, would be the perfect amount as well.
Yeah. Okay. And I've just seen a question come through. What if you don't have vermouth? Maybe is that a step too far?
Not necessarily. Vermouth is available from your local shops. You can get that. If you can't get your hands on it, a little bit of white wine would do a sort of similar job in sort of adding those slightly different botanicals as well. Shall I head on? Yeah.
On you go. Sorry. Yeah. On you go.
That's fine. No worries. So yeah, 25 ml of your fresh grapefruit juice or any citrus juice.
So I'm attempting to make this without knocking everything everywhere. So that's challenge number 1.
Behind the
Yeah.
bar as well.
Yeah, that's if you hear a bang and a crash, you know I've done something terribly wrong. But
perfect. So then we're going to fill with ice. Fill our shaker with ice. And give us a good old shake. So if you're using a shaker at home, what I always say is you're looking for a nice level of condensation on the outside. That lets it get down to temperature, and it should have reached the right dilution as well. So then we take our highball. These are just one of the ones that we use at work as well, but any kind of sort of tall, thin glass will do. And again, fill that with ice. And then we're straining this over our ice into our highball.
So is it important to have a tall glass for that, Chris?
Not necessarily. A short glass will work just as well. There's just the way that we usually serve this drink at work would be in a highball as well. A short rocks glass, something similar to... something like that would be perfect as well, just with ice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to top with a little bit of soda. This introduces some bubbles to it, which helps increase the flavour. Just adds a little bit of lengthening to the drink as well. So I'm going to top with a little bit of soda water. And just give that a little stir.
And that fizz in the soda water will really bring some of the flavours out, rather than just putting water into it.
Yeah, obviously it'll lengthen the drink slightly, but the addition of bubbles always helps to kind of enhance the flavour.
Yeah.
And then finally the garnish. So obviously in cocktails these days, especially in the bars, garnish is quite a big deal in terms of cocktails. It allows you to add colour, height, or different smells, different added visuals to the drink as well. So we're going to take a nice big strip of grapefruit peel. Again, if you can't get hold of grapefruit peel, any kind of nice citrus peel will do. Give that a little trim up. A nice bit of grapefruit peel.
You're showing off now, Chris. That's far better than I could do.
Again, like I say, like visuals for cocktails are sort of where it's not where it's going these days, but it's definitely something. Cocktails are as much a visual thing as they are a tasting to a lot of people these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the Instagram generation, right?
Exactly, yeah. I was speaking to other bartenders before, and we definitely agreed that cocktails these days definitely need to be Instagrammable. And it's an added bit of social media presence for the bars as well. And there we go, there's the honey puffin. That
is way better than my effort. But please, people, everybody out there, could we all cheers and show us your efforts? I think I'm going to be a bit shy and not show you my effort, but I'm sure there are some really impressive ones out there. Wow, I can see some incredible ones.
Lovely.
So, cheers. Thank you very much, Chris. That's all good. Oh, crikey. We've got, let me see, we've got almost 300 people on this. So there's an awful lot of people making cocktails. I'm sure some are much better, most are much better than my effort. But there we go. You're on camera, folks. You're on camera. Fantastic. Well, we're going to go back to Tarquin, and then we are going to come back to Chris afterwards. So I'll give you a bit of time to drink your cocktail and clear up the broken glass if you've smashed anything, and then we'll be back for our second one. So we're going to go through three different cocktails this evening, and break it up with going down to see Tarquin in the meantime. So hopefully Tarquin is ready for us, and I believe he's in a different part of the distillery. Here he is. That was seamless, Tarquin. That was seamless. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Phil. Thanks, Chris. And to any latecomers, welcome to the part 2. So we've moved from, or my wife and I, who's actually behind the lens, Courtney, we've moved to the current distillery, the main distillery, which was actually in 2014, rewind back a few years, the new distillery. So I've told you a little bit about why a naive 24-year-old food-loving sort of young guy, surfer enthusiast, wanted to set up a distillery. But now I'll tell you sort of how I did that. And it started off with one of these. So this isn't, unfortunately, I think I might have lost the original one, but I started off with a little still. Her name is Baby Tamara. So I had her at home, and as I mentioned, to start making gin, what you do is you start off with what they call in the trade is a neutral grain spirit. And what that is effectively is what you and I might call it, it's a vodka. So this is a blank canvas. It's typically distilled from a grain. We use a really high quality neutral spirit made from wheat, from British wheat. And you use that vodka and you redistill it. So you can distill, just like this one I've got in my hand. And rewind to probably chemistry, GCSE or O level if we're rewinding a little bit further back. And so what you do is you throw a little bit of that vodka into the belly of the still. And then you redistill it in the presence of botanicals. So what is a botanical? I'm sure you are all learned, knowledgeable gin lovers, so you don't need this education. But for a couple of you out there who don't know your botanical from your neutral spirit, a botanical is effectively a fruit, herb, plant or spice, which is edible. Ideally not poisonous here, but you can pretty much distill any botanical, and this is what I love about gin. You can get really, really creative. I mean, the legal definition within the UK for a gin is a spirit that is predominantly flavored by juniper. So juniper is this fantastic, aromatic, complex botanical. It's actually the cone. It's actually a pine cone for any of you pub quizzes out there. It's not a berry, but it has this beautiful piney, floral, citrusy, herbal, aromatic flavor. So in a nutshell, as long as you've got juniper in the pot, you can add in absolutely any botanical that you want to make your recipe unique. And this is what really, really appealed to me in those early days. It gives you the ability to be completely creative. You can stand that, you can make your gin taste completely off the wall. You can make it taste quite conservative as well. But whatever you do create, will be unique and won't taste like any other gin that you've ever come across before. And I thought that was absolutely incredible. And so what effectively, in terms of the process of what you're doing, you throw in the juniper, you throw in any other botanicals that you want, and then you heat it up. You sort of extract all the essential oils via distillation, the evaporation, and then condensation of the alcohol. And that's how you make the gin. So how did I do this? So I read about it on these online blogs. I read about it in a few books. And as I said before, it's very secretive. No one really wanted to share their knowledge. And they're quite happy to feed you misinformation, so you make some horrible gin. And I think that's the journey or the rite of passage for any budding distiller when they're 24 years old, distilling on their home cooker down in just near Padstow in Cornwall. So I had a smaller still, 0.7 litres in size. And so I drove down to Booker, set up an account. I've been dreaming of a Booker account for years beforehand. I mean, they're the holy grail these days. So alongside some vodka, I bought a few other bits and pieces that I threw in. I started to macerate these botanicals. So first of all, I'd buy typical gin botanicals that you'd find in all of those classic gins or the generic household brands that we're no longer keen on. But I'd read the recipes and start distilling things like coriander, all individually to begin with, to learn the flavor. So juniper, what did it taste like on its own? Coriander seeds, what do they taste like? Cardamom was quite familiar. But then you get to things kind of peculiar, very traditional gin ingredients. And these are hark back 200 years, kind of from the spice trails of the Far East as to how we started to make gin several hundred years ago. So we're talking about bitter almond, orris root, which is actually the root of an iris and tastes absolutely amazing, almost sort of violet-esque in flavor. Licorice root, angelica root. I mean, who had heard of angelica root in 2012? Also, this is the kind of botanical which smells of old books. Such a weird botanical, but also so integral to the flavor of gin. You almost know it in your subconscious. When I came to distill all these unusual ingredients, they've been the backbone of many of the gin for years. And so, even though you don't recognize them by name and you can't articulate what they actually are, you are familiar with them, you've tasted them before, and that's what I was doing really. I distilled probably over 100 individual botanical distillates, and what I was doing is building up that memory bank of flavor. And I don't think, or I was very much training myself. So I think the difficulty when it comes to tasting, whether we're doing a gin tasting or a wine tasting, or tasting anything, the difficulty is that articulation of what you're smelling. I think everyone finds themselves smelling something new, and where it's a gin. You're like, oh, I know exactly what that is. What is it? And you're just trying to pinpoint what it is in your mind. But building up that recipe bank of flavor, it's like, oh, I know that's angelica roots, or you can pinpoint exactly which botanical it is, and the ensemble of which different botanicals come over, the different way that you angle your glass. Citrus is such a lively component of many gins, probably the most volatile. So those are the kind of flavors that you get straight off the glass very early on when you're tasting the gin neat. And typically some of the more delicate botanicals or earthy ones, they come off a little bit slower. So this is what I'm telling you now. This is the kind of stuff I was learning as I was going along and teaching myself. And this is I was my own apprentice. And after I distilled 100 botanicals, I kind of knew what 100 botanicals tasted like. And then it was the journey of what do I want my gin to taste like? So it's actually very difficult. So in my mind, I knew I wanted something very vibrant, very fresh, and I knew I wanted it to make it taste better than something which begins with G and ends in orders. But yeah, so that was definitely my aim. But really, I think the gin category over the past 20, 30 years, it kind of suffered a little bit. Big companies swallowed up little ones. The market had been consolidated. It was kind of the era where quality, it was all quantity over quality, and it was really profit above all else. This is a kind of deep friction. You're looking to cut costs. But now, this was an opportunity for us to create something which tasted better, where more care, attention, detail, and just enthusiasm in the production process, and the final product. Where my initial dream was that if I could make something which tasted better than those gins that 99% of people out there were familiar with, I knew that I'd be onto something that people would want to buy and enjoy. And I think that's rule number one in the business book. If you're going to set up this company when you're 24 years old, you've got to make sure the product tastes good. So that was number one. So 6 months in my cooker at home, and then I scaled up to the big time, 500 square feet in a little lockup outside Hudson, with a 250-litre still called Tamara. So now you see where baby Tamara came from. So Tamara was the big girl, 250 litres. We're talking 1,000 litres of neutral grain spirit, which actually comes in 96% ABV. That's as strong as petrol. So I'm sort of scratching my head. I got sort of 1,000 litres of petrol strength vodka. Got a still. I got a. Interestingly, all of our stills, or 3 of our stills, our old-fashioned stills, are heated by direct fire. Very unusual process. Again, it sort of harks back to the sort of traditional method that you would use 1,000 years ago to swap propane gas burner, probably for some sort of log. But we use a direct fire, and effectively, any way that you can heat your still will work to make gin. We're one of very few distillers at the time doing this, but on a small scale, it just worked for us. I didn't have the budget to buy a great big fancy German fruit brandy still, the kind of ones you'll see at brands beginning with S and ending in Itzmith. But that's how I started. That's how I started out. And it's kind of just 200 bottles in a batch at a time. And when I say we, I mean myself. I wrote to my older sister. She was a much more sensible accountant. She just got married, was having a child in between jobs, and made the foolish decision of venturing into business with her younger brother. And then my mother retired, but a beautiful calligrapher. I knew I could rope her into doing the beautiful batch character tasting notes at the front of, or at that time, in my old bottle, the side of every bottle. So I made the decision that we were going to celebrate the fact that we're a small batch distillery, celebrate our craft, that we're not making homogeneous gin by the million bottles at a time. And what I wanted to do, and if you look on the front of your bottle these days, of your Tarquin gin, you'll notice a unique batch character tasting note. So here you go, so right on the front of the bottle. And what that is while all our batches are consistent, and we work harder, probably harder than most craft distilleries, to make our gin taste the same time and time again. What the temperature of even this distillery in summer versus winter, the different crop of juniper that you get year on year, it's never going to be identical. And I think that's the beauty of it as well. This isn't a homogeneous product. Gin does have that element of terroir or flavour, and that's what we're really about to celebrate. This is we are a genuine small batch distillery, and this isn't going to be identical, even though we as consistent as possible. So my mother was on the signing. My father, I got him to do a few deliveries with me. So I sold the first batch in 30th of July, 2013, out of the boot of my Vauxhall Astra. Vauxhall Astra estate could fit about at least 20 cases in the back. I drive down to Cornwall's best gastropubs, wine shops, hotels, and peddle my wares. Soon learned that you can send stuff by courier. I learned what a pallet was. That was an interesting time. Learned what a forklift truck was. And very, very gradually, by word of mouth and a little bit of social media, you began, I think it's quite easy to sell that first bottle of gin. It's like, hi mate, you want to buy some Cornish gin? I think people were interested and curious. But it's to sell that second bottle of gin, which really got me excited. And we began a bit of an audience. And Tamara, our first still, turned into Sonara, our second still. Tamara means the goddess of the Tamar, the river Tamar. Sonara is named after the patron saint of Zena, this beautiful little village down on the west coast of Cornwall. Sonara turned into Tressa, which means 3 in Cornish. Teresa turned into Ferrara, which you'll meet in the third part of our distillery tour. We also have Geneva as well. So we've now got a whole bunch of stills. But you know, what feels like an absolute roller coaster of the last 7 to 8 years. I think we're coming up to our 7th anniversary in July. What feels like a roller coaster is actually being very small, organic growth. You know, it took me over a year to make our first hire, and we've taken it very, very gently from then. I mean, now we're, you know, think back in 2012 when I set about to start this distillery. The distillery before us to start up in the southwest of England was Plymouth Gin. They did that 100 years ago. You know, we truly were the first new gin distillery to start up in southwest England. That's Devon, Dorset, Cornwall, Somerset. You know, we're heading, you know, even Wiltshire, Hampshire. I know they're not the southwest, but no one was making gin in these counties. So it really was quite unusual. And those guys, you know, my friends from the outset were like, ooh, not sure you should make gin, mate. You know, I think we've got enough gins. You know, I think it almost made sense. You know, it was quite an unusual thing. But you know, it's been quite an extraordinary journey. And I think, how many of us are there? There's almost about 40 of us who work at the distillery now. It's fantastic. So it's no longer just me and my sister. Although my dad, who used to help me out with some of the deliveries, he doesn't do any deliveries any longer, but I still see him sometimes coming to the distillery, filling up his car with cases of gin. Not really sure where he's taking them, but I think, you know, I'm sure I'll see him quite soon. So that's, you know, that's pretty much been the journey of how, and it's really been, you know, it's been an incredible journey. I've got a few more grey hairs, you know, along the way, but it's been, for me, you know, we haven't had huge investors or anything like that. We're still a small family-owned company. I know, you know, we always, when people come here on tours, so we usually, you know, we've had to stop, which is why we're doing the virtual tours. When people come around, they're always just like, oh wow, you know, is this where you make the gin? You know, and really it is. You know, we are nestled in an old cattle barn. You know, we're a few miles away from Padstow. If I paint the picture where we are in England, so we're a few miles from the coast. The closest surfing beach is about 5 miles that way. I know I told you that when I started the distillery, I wanted to go surfing in the morning and make a few bottles of gin in the afternoon. Gradually, the gin making crept into the surfing. So I'm a terrible surfer. Well, I was better 8 years ago than I am today. But we do have a very, very enthusiastic marketing manager. He shows me right up, and he does actually make it to Harlem and Constantine Bay during his lunch times. And one of my, I suppose people, occasionally I get asked about who my idols are. And there's an amazing guy called Yvonne Chouinard, the founder of this brand called Patagonia. And he's written this book, almost like an autobiography or piece about Patagonia, and it's called Let My People Go Surfing. And it's kind of the ethos of the business that I started out. So we're very much about, you know, as long as your work is done, that's okay with me. I know Sean's probably like, that's not true, but it is. You know, you can go surfing on your lunch break as long as, you know, you hit your deadline at the end of the week. You know, if the waves are amazing, if they're pumping, you know, you can down tools and drive off, and you know, it's not going to faze me. Because hopefully, I'm doing the same. You know, I think that's what I wanted to start out when I started a business. I mean, a business sounds quite corporate. That was never anything I intended to do. It was to have a lifestyle business, a brand that I love, making a product that I really felt passionate about. I'm not a natural salesman, so to have a product that you can taste, touch, enjoy, really get behind and feel enthusiastic about, I think is so important. And it also allows me to be creative. It's like I said, the definition of gin is so broad and beautiful that it's really just an expression of flavor. And going back to when I did my cordon bleu cooking course and set up that Thai restaurant, wanted to set up that Thai restaurant, really you're just looking to combine a set of flavors in a unique way to stand out and create something new. And we did that with our so this is our original, our Cornish Dry Gin. But over the last 7 years, we've got this beautiful array of fruit-flavored gins, where we use fresh pressed fruit on top of our distilled gin to make unique flavors. We've also been really creative. The Gin Foundry, done some fantastic collaborations with sort of almost distilled a barbecue with oak chipped smoked stuff. And really, the chance to be creative is what definitely keeps me back. Coming to the distillery every day and firing up one of the old girls and making something beautiful. So it's probably time to pour yourself another gin and tonic if you're not on the cocktail making class. But for those of you who are ready for cocktail number 2, I will pass back over to Chris, and yeah, I'll probably finish my quarantine here. So I'll catch up with you in location number 3 in about 5 or 10 minutes. Jäger start.
See you in a bit. Cheers back to you, Chris. That first one was, in my mind, a pretty good cocktail, although I didn't do it any favours by not having all the ingredients. But I think the vermouth and the Tarquins go together fantastically.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
Moving on, actually, like Tarquin was saying, the beach editions are some of my favourite iterations of Tarquin's gin. The marriage of the smoke and that sort of like wood chip aging internally as opposed to sort of an oak aging barrel on the outside, I think is a brilliant sort of style you can add to gin. And I think, frankly, like aging is kind of like the next way to take that sort of like white spirit. So anyway, off topic, but we'll head back to cocktail number 2, which is called apricot iced tea. I'm going to angle you guys down again to the home bar. Cool. So if any of you guys the recipe list beforehand, there was a chamomile tea syrup involved. So just really quickly, I want to run you guys through how to make that. So in here, in true Blue Peter fashion, here's what I made earlier. We've got 100 ml of water and 2 or 3 chamomile tea bags, depending on how sort of quickly you want to infuse it and how deep you want that flavour. So that's been sitting for about an hour. So once that's done, what we want to do is strain the liquid through into another vessel where we're going to weigh the liquid out of it, because we want to add the same amount of sugar to the liquid to make sure we've got the right balance of sweetness. Put that up there. I'm just going to press as much liquid out of these as I can, all that flavour.
And presumably you don't want to over extract that, do you? You don't. Can you go too far with it, or is chamomile okay?
Yeah, chamomile's not too bad. Like with tea, with sort of more like traditional tea, there's a lot more tannins involved.
Yeah.
With the chamomile, you won't really get too much of an over extraction.
Okay.
There's a tiny little bitterness at the end, but actually it kind of works in the cocktail.
Okay.
And then we've got caster sugar, and so mine's going out to 80 grams of liquid, so I'm going to add another 80 grams of sugar.
So that's just creating basically a flavoured simple syrup, right?
Yeah,
1 and 1.
Ratio of 1 to 1 simple syrup.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. And then seal that back up again, give it a good shake, and just let that let the sugar dissolve into there, and it'll go nice and clear. And eventually you'll end up with a there we go, chamomile tea syrup, like the one I've got in my bottle ready to go here. So
you don't need to heat that up at all, do you? You don't need to warm it over.
You can use let's back up one talk. You can use hot water to kind of like help the extraction from the tea. I've just found that cold liquids work just as well. If you've got the time to do it, if you're looking to rush a syrup through like for service like we would be in the bar, then it really helps. But the cold water will help extract sort of much more of the nicer flavours. If you were going to get any negativity, it would probably come from adding heat to it as well and over extracting that way.
Okay, got you.
It's literally adding cold water to the sugar and just give it time to dissolve properly, and you'll end up with a nice ratio of syrup.
Okay, brilliant. Good tip.
So I'm going to leave that down again. So this cocktail, apricot iced tea. To start with, again, we're using the Cornish Dry. So 40 ml of the Cornish Dry. And then we've got 20 ml of an apricot brandy. Any apricot brandy will do.
I see that you're actually using an apricot brandy. Lots of people again were asking today what could be the alternative, and I said any kind of a fruit-based liqueur, which
Yeah,
had
I
a
suppose
similar
you could do. I mean,
flavor profile. So
yeah.
maybe apple-based, kind of potentially.
Yeah, apple could work as well. I mean, the core flavour to kind of modify with this is the apricot. But if you can't do that, again,
Yeah.
similarly, you're looking at some kind of like fruit flavour to modify the gin with.
Yeah.
Kind of liqueur, just flavoured liqueur will do. You'll probably end up with slightly different flavour to this evening. But again, all you're doing is looking to take your gin, add a slight modifier to it, sweeten and add citrus, and then that's kind of the basic for a lot of fruit flavoured cocktails.
Yeah. So I got a cider brandy from Somerset, from Justin Templey. I was,
that's
yeah,
that's brilliant. That will work really, really nicely.
that's what I thought.
Cool. So, 20 ml of your brandy of choice. Then, citrus-wise, we're using lemon juice. So, 25 ml fresh lemon juice. A little bit more. One of the things people sort of speak to me about in terms of citrus as well is the sustainability. So, especially the bars that I work at, we try and keep a lot of our citrus peels, and anytime we juice citrus, we'll keep hold of the lime husks or the lemon husks after and turn them into citrus stocks or oleos, which if anyone wants to hang around at the end of the videos, I'm quite happy to demonstrate how to make a really basic home oleo using citrus peels and sugar at home, which would be a really nice other thing to addition to cocktails.
Great. I think we'll do that, definitely. And I know that you haven't added the bitters yet, but I couldn't think of an alternative to actual bitters. There's no way of really getting around that, is there? That really stretched my imagination when people were asking me that. I was like, yeah, well, bitters are bitters. So, yeah.
Well, Peychaud's is quite a unique bitters in the fact that it's very sort of aniseed forward.
Yeah.
Obviously, Angostura bitters being Angostura focused. Peychaud's bitters is gentian focused. Unusually most sort of like Italian bitters. Sorry, 25 ml of lemon juice has gone in there, and then we're going to do 25 ml of our chamomile tea syrup.
Okay.
And then 2 dashes of our Peychaud's bitters. So I don't know if you guys can see the bottle there. Yeah, Peychaud's are beautiful bitters. It's the base of a Sazerac cocktail, which is a classic cocktail. You only ever put Peychaud's in a Sazerac. It's one of my favourite styles of bitters because of that aniseed style of flavour as well. And so we're looking at 2 dashes, 1, 2 of Peychaud's bitters. If you haven't got Peychaud's bitters at home,
yeah,
it's not the worst thing in the world. This just adds a slightly different element to the cocktail.
Yeah, sure.
The very nice apricot flavoured citrus forward cocktail.
Okay, great. So yeah, that one stumped me this afternoon. I was like, I really haven't got a clue about how you would replace that flavour profile. So yeah.
Peychaud's is available on Gin Kiosk, which is obviously one of the other sponsors of our event this evening. Great. So we're going to add some ice to our shaker. Looking for a nice level of dilution and chilling. And so for this drink, I've got a lovely Nick and Nora glass. You can use any kind of sort of like martini glass or a coupe glass, which is this style here for these straight up drinks. We're seeing some lovely alternative shakers going on there, guys. That's brilliant.
That's great to see. Innovation is what it's all about.
Exactly.
Great alternatives to.
And then I'm going to double strain this one. So with any kind of straight up cocktail, if you haven't got a double strainer, no issue. But we're always looking to try and get all the little bits of ice out in this, so it's a nice straight up clean drink. And I went over to Mother's earlier in the day and saw some nice edible flowers from her garden. I did tell her. And
No, you're just showing off. So what kind of edible flowers would you use? Nasturtiums? It's too early in.
Possibly too early in the year, yeah. But anything that sort of looks nice and looks good. Can you see that there, guys? The other
That looks great.
Is a nice bit of lemon peel, which you can shave off and shape nicely and just twist over the side of the glass.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, let's all cheers.
Enjoy.
Let's all cheers. Let's see your creations.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Up to the camera. Oh, fantastic. Your one looks very good and large. Wow.
Other measures definitely allowed in this.
Hi.
How are you?
We're good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Your efforts are looking really.
It's very
Yeah.
large, so
Mine's
very
in the
good.
Love it.
Everybody's going to split up.
Oh, fantastic.
Cheers. Thank
That's
you.
looking.
Bit strong.
That's looking
Bit strong.
very.
Wow, looking good.
Loving it. Loving seeing how many different people have got the different glasses, the different tones of strength.
Yeah.
So I think at the end we need to go around a few people and see which was their favourite. But yeah, there's some very, very good efforts going on there, and I'm loving the improvisation around the shakers. It's fantastic.
So I was going to say, with these kind of style of drinks as well, if you are adding a little bit more booze, add equal sort of like measure of sweet and sour. You're looking for a nice level of balance, sort of like at least 2 parts spirit, 1 part sweet, 1 part sour. So that gives you a nice sort of good balance. If you do want to add more alcohol, that's perfect. But just try and make sure that you're sort of adding the right balance either side of it as well.
Yes, it's all about getting that balance right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's no harm in making sure that you keep on tasting it before you get that, before you actually finally balance it all out. And that's why you always see bartenders, mixologists doing that, don't you? Just that they're just checking the balance of it.
I mean, when I'm first getting my new guys behind the bar, I make them try every drink, and it's basically to learn that palate, build that palate, understand if it's missing something, what else it needs, and it's the only way you learn, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a bit like salt and pepper, but slightly more advanced than that. Yeah, excellent. So I think we're going to head back to Tarquin if he's in position. I can't see him on my screen, but yeah, there he is. Fantastic. We've progressed to the 3rd part of the distillery and onto what looks like a much larger setup behind you. So looks a lot more impressive than what you're holding in your arms earlier, Tarquin.
I think is that cocktail number 2, quarantini number 3. But cheers everyone, and welcome to location number 3. So as I told you, this is an old cattle barn. Pretty cold in here, but we're going to pan around so you get a real view of what's going on. So this is about 3,000 square feet. So this is absolutely huge compared to my initial 500 square foot distillery. And like any good distiller who's got a larger space, much larger than they needed, what did I do? Put a couple of sofas in, places where you can lie down, relax while the stills heat up. And that was back in 2014. Then very quickly realized, I think there's some sort of law in science, like there's Ohm's law, I'm sure that's wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong, where sort of a gas will fill any space in which it's in. And that's exactly what happens. I've found in units that I've created for my distillery. So we actually have 5 units. Believe it or not, we have 5 units, and this distillery is this full. Even behind the lens, there's more stuff stored behind you. But anyway, let me introduce you to our 3rd still that we brought into the Tarquin yet. So she's called Ferrara. Sounds very exotic. Looks completely different to the other stills as well. And she is. So the reason she's called Ferrara First of all, the name ends in RA or ARA. So we had Tamara, Sonara, Tressa, a lovely, strong Cornish name. So Ferrara's name, she's Italian, and she isn't a custom-made, very green, high-tech Italian copper pot still made by Green Engineering for its sort of heat efficiency and just amazing components in terms of distillation. Called Ferrara because she's pretty much the price of a Ferrari. So I must have been in a good mood when I pulled the trigger on this one. But she's been absolutely amazing. And most importantly, she's kind of represents the evolution of Tarquin's Gin as a brand. So naturally, as hopefully you can remember 10 minutes ago, I was behind those beautiful copper pot stills. And those are very rustic. So the design of those girls hasn't changed for over 1,000 years. It's almost sort of the Moors in North Africa moved to Portugal and Spain. I actually got those stills, even though they look about 100 years old. They were brand new in there from a little part on the Spanish-Portuguese border up in sort of green Spain, Portugal. And so what they're fantastic at doing is making fantastic gin. But what we wanted to do as a distillery, as more and more people obviously wanted to taste the fantastic liquid that we were making down here at Cornwall, we had to scale up a little bit. And most important to me was always, I'd been looking at these brands that I'd say sacrificed quality for quantity. And we needed to make sure that every batch was consistent as possible and true to that first batch, if not better than that first batch which came off the still on the 30th of July, 2013. So this is where Ferrara comes in. She is much more high-tech. She's got sensors all over, from top to bottom. She's got this beautiful thing, which our head of operations absolutely loves. It's called a Coriolis Meter. It's a beautiful piece of kit which can tell you the density, the temperature, sort of the pressure. It tells you absolutely everything. But most importantly, what it lets us do is to map out a distillation digitally. You can see a graph and a chart of all of the vital measures, almost like looking at your heartbeat on a hospital bed. That's what we can see. We can see the beating heart of Ferrara when we're doing a distillation of Tarquin's Gin. And what we can also do is look to mimic sort of the chemistry, the alchemy, which goes on in those original copper pot stills in Tamara. That's what we were looking to recreate. And that's what we can do with a little bit of expert knowledge. I mean, it literally took 2 years to get from Tamara landing in the distillery, which also involved renting a crane, a little spider crane, which came in here on legs, opened up. Again, just sort of absolutely bizarre things which you have to do. It's the journey of a budding distiller. But yeah, she's absolutely incredible, high tech. And what she does day in and day out is reproduces the fantastic, consistent and high quality flavor of Tarquin's Gin. And I think it's so important to us to make sure that the flavor is number one. I think, some people ask us, why do you think that you've sort of grown the way that you have, or why, what's the sort of any secret to our relative success in what we're doing? I always go back to the liquid, the quality of the product, the gin that we produce. That unique flavor is what has helped our Tarquin's grow to where we are today. For me, sort of my sister bottling gin on the floor of our initial unit, sort of wax everywhere, sort of my mum sort of signing bottles, my dad driving gin to the sort of his hidden, God knows where he's driving the gin. But anyway, that is the key to the success to what we've been doing. So I can try and tell you a little bit more about the science behind distillation, or really what this still does. I won't bore you with this sort of too much details, but this beautiful still, she provides us with a little bit of flexibility. So it's the standard pot. So where where our original stills can make a few hundred bottles a day, she can make a few thousand, which is obviously what is quite important to the distillery. She's actually got within the column 7 plates, so they're sieve plates, lots of copper contact. And that also allows us to rectify. It allows us to rectify spirits to make different products. So we can be flexible over the years, and we can also use her to rectify spirits. It enables us to recycle some of our heads and tails, the waste as well. It's got the Coriolis Meter and these sort of collection tanks down here as well. But all in all, it's a sort of fantastic piece of kit. And in terms of how long does distillation take, what goes on, From start to finish, it's about probably about 8 to 9 hours. It takes about an hour to heat up, probably about 6 hours of distillation, and then probably about 2 hours of the last part of distillation. And I know people talk about heads and tails and feints and foreshots. You know, who knows their heads from their tails in gin distillation? But I'll try and enlighten you a little bit. So we load the still up, just as we did with my little one on my cooker. We're just doing it on a grander scale, a much grander scale here. We load her up, and she's actually loaded up tonight, macerating for distillation tomorrow. So we fill it up with watered down neutral grain spirit. So this is kind of high quality wheat vodka. We then throw in our unique botanical recipe. So we have 12 botanicals. And the flavor of our Tarquin's gin, for those of you enjoying a quarantini right now, I would say it's vibrant, it's fresh, it's citrusy and floral in terms of sort of lead flavor dimensions, but also quite delicate. And I think that's what makes it time and time again. It's you know, it really is my go-to gin and tonic. Obviously I make it, but it really is my go-to gin. It makes a fantastic gin and tonic. Always go light on the tonic. But it's so versatile. It makes a beautiful citrusy martini. Lovely Negroni. Anyway, so we load her up with our 12 botanicals. Lots of fresh citrus fruit, orange, lemon, and grapefruit. And we use violet flowers as well. That's a sort of signature botanical. And lots of juniper. You know, Tarquin's are still very much a juniper forward gin. And that was something I wanted to stay core to the identity of gin when I started out. So I mentioned that you can go completely off the wall with gin. You know, as long as it's got a couple of berries of juniper in it, you can call it gin. I think, you know, some people have taken that too seriously. But, you know, we are staying true to what a gin does and should taste like. And that's a common theme you'll find even within our fruit gins. You can smell what, you know, our blackberry gin, our rhubarb and raspberry gin, you'll still get a very predominant flavor of juniper on the nose, and they're all still good, punchy, 38%, 42% ABV gin. So anyway, she's loaded up. The botanicals macerate overnight. So they literally, at the end of the day, we pour the botanicals in. The secret recipe. So even 8 years on now, I'm the only one who knows the recipe. I'm not the only, you know, we have a couple of distillers on the team, but it is still top secret under lock and key. So we load up the recipe and it soaks in the spirit overnight. And what that does, given that many of the botanicals are dried, it breathes life back into them, and it starts to extract those essential oils, which come over in the distillation, which then give the gin its unique flavor. So you heat the still up to just under 80 degrees, and that's when you start to get evaporation, or the pot boils. It boils, you get evaporation of the distillate. It brings with it the essential oils. And then it gets forced through, it's got nowhere to go. So it's forced through a condenser, through running water, and then it turns back into liquid. And it's actually quite a slow process. So, you know, it just doesn't happen like that. You get this beautiful array of flavor which come over with the alcohol in different fractions or different temperatures. So first of all, I mentioned you get these volatile citrus oils. So typically you discard the heads. So typically those are the most volatile citrus oils, but it's also a good way to, you know, I think traditionally in the trade they call it cleaning the still. So, you know, you don't want the first out gin which comes off the tap. So you discard probably the first 5%. It's called the heads. And given that we've started with a very pure alcohol, this isn't stuff which is going to make you blind. You know, we've started with the purest vodka. This, you know, it's absolutely incredible stuff. We started with. We're discarding it purely to make the smoothest gin that we can, because that's most important to us as distillers. So we discard that, and then we keep probably the middle 80% of the run. And while we initially heated the still to 80 degrees, it very slowly rises or steps up gradually over the next 6 hours. And as the temperature rises, you tend to extract different essential oils from the botanicals in the pot. So first of all, citrus. Then you start to get some of the green cardamom, some of the strong spice notes. Then some beautiful soft notes of orris. So as I mentioned, sort of violet and iris coming through. Then some earthy angelica. Smells a little bit like old books, as I mentioned to you before. And then we finish with juniper, sort of the last in the ensemble. And then we add it all together into the same tank. And that's where all the flavors get to marry together to make this beautiful distilled. And while technically we're a London dry gin, of course, where are we? We're in Cornwall. We like to call ourselves a Cornwall Dry Gin. So Tarquin's Cornish Dry Gin was obviously the first product which came off the still. But also, for some of you who might know a little bit more about our history and what we do, the second spirit that we made, this was in September 2013, was a pastis. So I mentioned that I did a cordon bleu cooking course, and that I cooked in France. So it was actually very natural for me to make another spirit, which is a pastis, and it's made very, very, very similarly to gin. So you start off with the base, and then you just have a different botanical build. So we're swapping out the juniper for things like star anise, for aniseed, and we actually use Cornish gorse flowers in this spirit, but we use the same stills, and we can distill this in the same way, and we're able to create something fairly unusual in England. I think we were definitely the first guys making this when we started back in 2013. There might be someone else as crazy as us to have a go at this, one, but it's one of our rarer products, but it's still, you know, it adds a little bit of character to what we do. And we do have an amazing array of gins these days. I think we've got about 4 or 5 permanent lines. Like I said, this is what drives my passion to distilling gin. The ability to be creative is what I find absolutely incredible in my job. And this one, I hope many of you are familiar with this. It's called Tarquin's The Sea Dog Navy Gin. It started out live as a limited edition batch, which we actually created for the Navy, 771 Squadron down here in Cornwall. And it was so popular and so good and so delicious, 57% ABV, that we turned it into a permanent line. And this gin actually went on to win in a blind tasting best gin and show, double gold, best gin at the San Francisco Wild Spirits competition just a few years ago. And I know, you know, well, I must warn you that it's strong. I know some of you have had probably good times on this. And it reminds me of the time that I actually, probably a few years ago, before we got Ferrara up and running, I never had enough stock. And one of my friends, I was going to this party, he's like, can you bring me a case of gin? It was sort of, you know, maybe his 27th birthday party. And he was combining it with his little brother's birthday party. I think they're about 18 or 20 or something like that. And I was like, oh, I've only got the Sea Dog, but I'm sure that's fine. That's fine. So just dumped a couple of cases of Sea Dog behind the bar. You know, everyone has a 16-year-old cousin who's happy to volunteer, you know, behind the bar. There's no jigger, no measure. Who knows what's going in it? So, you know, a few hours later, a couple of cases of Sea Dog later, things got pretty loose. You know, there's triple Sea Dogs and tonic being poured left, right, and centre. No one even knows that it's 57%. It was actually, on my part, a slight disaster. And I think, you know, there's certainly 1 or 2 stories. I know definitely one poor guy, one of the 18-year-olds, I think, probably tried and failed to start some sort of fist fight with the father of the host. So a little bit of a disaster, but most importantly, keep your eye on this one and make sure you drink responsibly. I think that's the key takeaway there. But we do, you know, I mentioned the ability to be creative is what keeps me going. This is a beautiful gin which we make for a hotel in the Scilly Isles on the island of Briar. It's called the Hell Bay Hotel. And we infuse this one with seaweed, 3 types of seaweed, all foraged in Cornwall. And this is infused post-distillation. So that's one of the sort of rarer Tarquin's gins, which, you know, it's made in very, very small batches, but it definitely adds a little bit of excitement to what we do. We've got this one. It's called the Hopster. We make it with Sharps Brewery, which is just over the river from us. And this is a distilled gin, but we distilled it with 3 different types of American hops. So really, these are the ones which make those fruity, powerful IPAs. Crystal, Pilot, and Citra hops. And this is absolutely amazing. Pair this with a big slice of grapefruit. And it's kind of, you know, it's that mix between beer and gin, which is absolutely incredible. We also do a bunch of fruit gins. So these are, most importantly, these are all natural. So what we're doing is we're taking our beautiful distilled Cornish Dry Gin and we're infusing it with fresh pressed fruit. So those are the ingredients. In our blackberry, we also drive up the road, or actually we don't drive anymore. Actually, maybe we do. I think somehow we drive up to Polzeath down the road to this bee farm, and all these bees have sort of been flying around Polzeath and Rock and St Minver, making honey, and it goes into our British blackberry gin. So British blackberries, Cornish honey. Do a rhubarb and raspberry gin, beautiful sweetness and acidity, sort of sweet and sour. But most importantly, as I said, these are 38%. Really beautiful gins, and really ones designed to mix and tonic. They make, again, I seem to be the guy bringing booze to parties, but I went to a wedding the other day, brought loads of the rhubarb gin, and everyone's just like, give me that rhubarb gin. I want my gin and tonic to be the color of my dress. And it's, the whole thing really sort of quite a cool, gin to drink. And I think it keeps the category exciting as well. It's, people talk about the gin boom and flavored gins, and, what do you think is going to happen? And I think it's just really exciting to be able to get more people trying gin, and whether this is the sort of entry or sort of the gateway drug to drink some of the hard, some of the good stuff. If I can bring you in to try some of our Cornish Dry Gin and get you hooked, that's my dream as the distiller. This is still, this is we call it internally our flagship, and this is what we are most proud as distillers to create. Really, like I said, this is the gin that I go back to time again. There's another cocktail coming up with it.
There is indeed. I was just about to say, Tarquin, I've got a load of questions coming through from people. And people, please keep on putting your questions in the chat, because after we do the next cocktail, we'll be going back to Tarquin, and then we've got a whole load of things which we can talk to him about and go into more detail. One thing which I noticed with that was as soon as you mentioned the Sea Dog, the whole chat started to flood up with how good it was. I must admit, Tarquin, that is your best gin. I think it's absolutely stunning gin. But anyway, let's go do our last cocktail with Chris. And the last one was great. Well, I didn't do it too much justice, but let's hope that the last one is a good one.
Perfect. The final cocktail we've got this evening is very much a sort of herby based cocktail, and like I was saying earlier, Tarquin is really good at so versatile at matching between citrus forward drinks, herby drinks, or classic cocktails, like we said. The Sea Dog being again one of my favourite drinks to use in the gravy. It works so well. The gin itself has so much impact on that cocktail, and it's one of my favourite drinks as well. Sorry, go on, Phil.
No, on you go.
Yeah, perfect. No, so I'll angle you guys back down to the home bar again. Okay, so this last drink is called Eat Your Greens. It's very much a sort of a green herb and cucumber forward drink. This one can be either served straight up. I've even blended this one in the blender. If you are going to do that, I'd always just recommend adding a little bit extra sugar syrup to it to increase the sweetness. It's a really nice kind of like frozen cocktail, or you can enjoy it straight up with tonic water as well, for an extra bit of fizz. But this evening we're going to do it straight up in a coupe glass. First things first, we're using 50 ml again of our Cornish Dry Gin. And then we're going to muddle a 2-inch piece of cucumber there. Whenever I'm muddling anything, I always get a little bit of liquid in the bottom first, just to help kind of like break it up a little bit. And it starts to infuse some of the flavour as well. So in goes our cucumber.
Does everybody know what muddling means? See if everybody knows what muddling means. Chris is going to show you what muddling means in a very Cornish manner, I think.
Yeah, this is a muddler. Most bars will have one. You can use a rolling pin, anything that will basically fit inside your shaking implement to crush up what you've got in there. So we need that cucumber a really good muddle. Get it nice and broken up. Start to release all those flavours.
And sometimes, Chris, surely you can over muddle, because there's some things which you don't want to crush too much. You've got to be quite delicate with the muddle, otherwise you get too much bitterness or
definitely
the stem out of it or something like that. So you've got to be careful with some things, haven't you?
Definitely. So this drink, similar to a mojito, has mint in it, and it also has basil. I wouldn't go ahead and muddle those two things. especially with mint, you over extract on mint, and you end up with a lot of negative bitterness.
Yeah.
And similarly with a mojito, generally the bar trade, we don't muddle the mint in the mojito, just because it again adds too many negative flavours. So what we're going to do is we're going to shape those ingredients in there to kind of release some of their normal natural oils and natural essences, but we're not going to muddle those in there and bruise them and make them too bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving forward. So on top of the gin, we're going to add a little bit of Chardonnay. Any white wine will do, but Chardonnay generally has slightly more of a green fruits flavour to it. So pear, green apple, those sort of flavours, which kind of really complement the cucumber, the mint, and the basil that we're using in this drink. So 15 ml of our white wine or Chardonnay. And then 25 ml of our powdered sugar syrup. So this is literally a 1 part sugar to 1 part water syrup. And we're using 25 ml of that. And then fresh lime juice.
Someone's saying, what's the alternative to Chardonnay?
Like I said, any white wine will do, really. You just kind of want a little bit of that that comes from a white wine. It helps really lift this drink as well, and add some different, like I said, look for a white wine that's on the back of it sort of reads like more green fruits, apple, pear, peach, apple, pear, those sort of things as well. Pineapple's quite a good one that comes out of that as well.
Okay.
Cool. And then we're using 25 ml of lime juice as well.
And Chris, with lime juice and lemon juice, is it a big difference for making a cocktail? Is it important?
I'd say in some relation, yes. They're both citrus fruits, but like you find with sort of orange, grapefruit, they each have their own base acid or base flavour, which is kind of slightly differentiates. If I remember correctly, lime carries a more malic acid, whereas lemon is more citric acid. Those different acids will react differently with your tongue, react differently with drinks. For instance, you would not use a lemon in a mojito because of the way that it reacts with the mint and the rum. I think generally going forward, most gin cocktails call for lemon juice. This cocktail itself is a bit of a riff on the south side, which is pretty much a gin daiquiri, which is one of my favourite gin drinks. Super, super refreshing. Gin, lime, and sugar, and we've just kind of extended this and added a few other flavours to it as well to juice it up. And then, like I said, it can be lengthened as well. So 25 ml of our lime juice. Okay. And then we've got some fresh mint. And you want to pick a good handful of mint leaves here. We're sort of talking about 10 leaves. Because like I said, because we're not muddling this, to really extract the mint flavour, you need quite a few leaves in there to really get that out.
And you're just bruising those, right?
Yeah, I just give these a little tap, really, a little love tap.
Yeah.
And then drop those in. And then we're looking for 4 basil leaves just to kind of add that little bit of basil pepperiness to it as well.
So there's some really big flavours going on here, right?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like the versatility of Tarquin's gin means that it's brilliant for bartenders. There's so many different flavour profiles we found that we can use with Tarquin's as the base, which just means that it's a staple on all of our back bars. The Dry being sort of one of the most recognisable gins, and also the Sea Dog being one of the most recognisable gins in the county, and obviously moving into the country and around the world as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got all our ingredients in our shaker or shaking utensil. We're going to add a little bit of ice to it. And then this drink a little bit more so than others wants a real hard shake, just so we can extract a little bit more of those oils. So give it the hardest shake you've given it all this evening.
Seeing lots of shaking. Oh my goodness, all around the country, shaking is going on.
Shaking. There should be a bottle of gin going for the best shake of the evening as well.
Yeah.
And then we're going to take our martini glass or coupe glass. This one or anything, you kind of want to use both of your strainers just to kind of keep all the little green bits or the wet so you can nip the basil out. So use the strainer and then your sieve as well. And then we're going to find a nice basil leaf. Give them a little slit down the middle. Place that on the side of our glass. A nice mint leaf. Just tuck that. Nice and delicately. And there we have your greens. Drag us down. Cheers, guys. Enjoy.
That smells incredible. Thank you so much.
Right.
Amazing. And let's cheers, everybody. Let's go around and cheers, everybody. Let's see what your efforts are like.
Cheers.
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 There you go, mate. Excellent.
Glass dude.
Looking lovely, guys. Really good.
Oh, Midlands.
Yeah. We've still got
Thank you.
230
Beautiful.
people on and cheersing.
Cheers.
good.
Cheers. Oh, drink of the night.
Yes.
After we've finished all of this, we'll start asking people which one they enjoyed the most. But that's definitely a winner for me. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Super refreshing. And like I said, this works really well.
Yay!
In the blender, cups of ice.
Yeah, good one.
A couple of ice. Obviously, you get a little bit more bitty in there, but it makes a really, really nice frozen drink as well.
Cheers, Greg and Katie.
Cheers.
Chris, would you say this is one of your 5 a day? It's got that.
100%, yeah. This is just
Yeah, your protein shake. Yeah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, Chris, thank you so much for all your cocktails. It's been really informative, fantastic,
Brilliant, no, good.
very tasty, and really different as well. I think all of those, lots of different flavor profiles, and as you showed, it's Tarquin's is very kind of it goes well with so many different other flavor profiles and really stands up to things, and so many gins you kind of mix it with something and it's like you lose it, but Tarquin's really comes through. It's great.
And you still keep that, it still keeps its own identity as well in drinks, which is, I think, another reason why bartenders over the country enjoy using it. It stands up to all the classic gins that I've used as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And stay on, because we're going to come back after Tarquin, and we'll have our usual kind of sit-in with our regulars, and there'll be loads of questions going on. There'll be loads of questions. Don't you worry. There'll be. Last time I was on this 2 weeks ago, I was here until 11:15, and I said that's being an old publican. I said, right, okay,
Last orders.
time at the bar. Let's finish.
I think
Anyway,
as in most people, I'm not doing anything this evening, so I'm happy to sit around and
yeah, exactly.
drink some more gin.
Excellent. Okay, well, stick around and we'll come back to you in a bit. Now we are going back to Tarquin and our Q&A with Tarquin. So, Tarquin, thank you so much for having us. I mean, it's been really special seeing around the distillery, and the kind of progression has been really interesting. You know, that from the ridiculously small still which you were mucking around with on your on your stove top those years ago, and now that big thing from Italy behind you. It's it's incredible. It's incredible journey. And I think the first time I met you was 5 years ago. And that was quite an amusing evening, I must say, because you and I were both doing a presentation about our drinks. And I don't think I'll ever have 5 Negronis again before actually presenting, because that was a bit of a struggle, I must admit. I don't know about you. You're much, much better than I was. But yeah, I don't know whether
I think I went out, but I think you were a bit, you didn't get, I ended up seeing the finest, the bright lights of Bridport that night. So we missed out on that, Phil. So I woke up with a terrible hangover. They charged me for the hotel room, which they said was going to be free for doing the tasting. I sort of slinked off home, back down the A383 back to Cornwall. A night, crazy.
A night to remember, or maybe forget. I'm not quite sure which way round, but definitely shouldn't imbibe quite so many Negronis before you go, and try and to explain to people about your brand. But yeah, as I say, you're the consummate professional as far as I was concerned. I kind of lost it at various times, but anyway, Tarquin, we have got quite a few questions coming in from people. I think both from beforehand, and I think there have been some which have come through in the meantime. But I'm curious, Tarquin. When I've heard that each bottle is signed, and is that your mother's writing? Is that what you said?
So it used to be, yeah. So she has this beautiful, it's kind of, I think anyone born in the 50s just has absolutely incredible writing. I think mine looks like a sort of a 10-year-old boy's writing. But hers is sort of almost like, each word is like a piece of art. So she used to write these amazing tasting notes on our bottles. And then I think as soon as we hit a certain level of quantity, that was out the window.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, it's just crazy to do that.
No, so they are still handwritten, but it's no longer my mother who writes it. So it's we have, most of them are written by Jill, but we sort of test anyone who comes to work at Tarquin Gin. We test them out. It's the first thing we get them to do is like write your name next to Tarquin's name on this piece of paper. Look at us slightly confused. If you write your name and my name a little bit too well, you know where you're going to end up. There's a lovely, very well lit desk in the corner. We know every single batch before we go to bottle it. We've got very much more sophisticated than this these days. We have things like a trial and a test batch. So we test it against a batch we made ages ago, against a batch we made recently. We rank it out of 5, and only if it gets, I think, at least a 4. And this is the very, very, very highest mark against all of the trials. Will it go to bottle? And only then again create the unique batch character tasting note. So, like I said, this is a very, very consistent gin. Our process is probably better than 99% of the craft distillers out there. So we've got such a fantastic team around us. But at the same time, we still like to celebrate the fact that we're not a mass-produced, homogenous gin. And no 2 juniper berries are going to taste the same.
Yeah, so it's that kind of balance, I suppose, between what you had on the smaller stills behind you, but just being able to scale up that quality, but still having the passion and the character behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I will stop wittering on with my own questions, and I will go on to some of the questions which were sent into us. So I'm sure we could talk about this for hours, but what's your most popular gin by sales? Is it classic or flavoured?
It's classic. So our classic is by far. I think our classic sells as much as all of our other gins put together. So very much. I mean, this is our why we're most recognisable. This is my go-to, and I think it's most of everyone else's go-to as well. So yeah, it's still leading the pack.
Great, that's good to hear. What are your plans for new products in the future?
So we have something quite exciting teed up for World Gin Day. which is in early June. And it's a kind of a spritz gin, so blood orange, summer fruits, and gentian root as well. And gentian root is that amazing bitterness that you get in things like Campari or Suze. So a gin to spritz for the summer, early June for, I think, probably some sort of online or virtual tasting on World Gin Day. We also do Thirsty Thursdays at 3 p.m. every Thursday, where we release one of our smaller batch rare gins, kind of ones you can't buy in a shop or anywhere else online. So keep your eyes peeled on Facebook or Instagram for those. And then we do have something a little bit interesting. So I've always wanted to make a rum. So
I saw this.
On
Yeah.
May the 25th, we're launching a spiced rum.
Amazing.
It's called Twin Fin. And yeah, keep your eyes for the rum lovers amongst the gin lovers. Yeah, keep your eyes out. So lots of stuff in the pipeline. I don't think this lockdown has really deterred or put off our spirits in terms of what we want to do with distillers. So it's a way of lifting the spirits and keeping the morale of the team up as well. Something exciting.
And Tarquin, where can we buy that rum when it comes available on the 25th? Is that via gin kiosk or
all good retailers?
All good retailers, okay.
All good retailers. I mean, typically, I think online seems to be the way to go. I mean, traditionally, our customer base are independent retailers, department stores, fine wine shops, places like gin kiosk. I don't know if they're going to dabble in rum. They might make an exception. So
I think they will. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they will. Yeah.
We'll twist Olivier and Emil's arm.
Yeah. There'll be the gin and rum kiosk after that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Quickly, moving on to the branding. Obviously, you've changed your branding over the years. Well, the bottle. Sorry if my camera's shaking. My dog is distracting me at the moment. So the bottle design has changed. What kind of, have you seen a great reaction to that? Have you seen an uptick in sales or?
Definitely a lot of positivity. I think I see it as a kind of pivotal moment or as a brand, we've matured, and it's kind of represented a little bit, us growing up as distillers, moving from, probably it almost coincided with us moving from these stills behind me to also working with Ferrara. So it's kind of, part of our evolution of growing up. And also ironed out a few of our supply chain niggles, trying to get some bottles out of France in the middle of August is like, God, absolute nightmare. Now they're made in Yorkshire. So British made Yorkshire bottles, and great for us as distillers, but really positive. The reaction's been fantastic.
And is it true that it's meant to represent what a bottle would look like if it has the kind of thing which you get on a beach, an old bottle which had been roughed about in the sea? Is that right? Is that
the concept? It's definitely so. The idea is all sea glass. We're only a few miles away from the sea. We like to say we're distilling this gin on the wild Cornish coast, and it is designed to look like it's washed up on a beach.
Which I think is really clever. It's really The texture of the bottle is like sea glass.
We've got the sort of ripple of waves on the base, and then we've got this beautiful embossed puffin. I think one of the most technical, a real technical feat of our Yorkshire bottle manufacturer. They spent many hours scratching their heads over making this triple-tiered embossed beauty. But I think we were so proud of the results, and it was a step definitely in the right direction for us as a brand in a sort of maturing distillery.
Well, it's great to see you onshoring production of bottles, and I'm sure it actually serves you well when you're that close to your suppliers. Quickly going on to the next one, do you have any more partnership gins planned? I know that Rick Stein and the project group are like really popular with a lot of people.
Yes, we try and keep our limiters quite limited. We do have a couple of ideas, particularly around Christmas. But we are, our blood orange gin is what we're focusing on at the moment. And we, that summer spritz idea. But what we do, so again, stay tuned. Nothing's concrete yet. There's still a little bit of movement and flexibility. But yeah, probably towards the second half of the year, closer to Christmas, we should have a couple of really exciting things too.
Okay, brilliant. Listen, we have, because of how amazing all the cocktails have been and how full you've been with all of your descriptions of the whole process and the progress of all the stills, we are kind of run over our time. But what we usually do at this stage is to kind of keep everything running. If people want to keep on talking to each other and breaking into chats, etc., it's quite popular. And I'm sure Chris is still online to answer people's more in-depth questions about cocktails, etc., etc. What I will say is, Tarquin, thank you again so much for this evening. It's been fantastic. It's been really interesting. Even I've learned stuff about gin from you this evening. And we will be back for those people who are on here. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with a tasting of Downton Abbey gin, which is made up in Harrogate. So we'll be doing a tour of the distillery up there, a tasting, and maybe some extra bits and bobs. But I know everybody is wanting to know, Tarquin, what the phrase or the secret word was, or the special word was. And I think you can say it much better than I can. So please.
It's Jägerstar. Jägerstar.
Jägerstar. And I have got the winner. I hope they're still online. I'll find out whether they are, and we can get their details and address. I think it was Phil and Kay, I seem to note. I hope I was right. I was trying to keep track of everything which is coming in.
Yay!
But, can we pin? Are you still online?
We are here, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Let's pin you and say well done, and there'll be a bottle.
It's my birthday today too.
Oh,
Happy
congratulations. Congratulations.
Happy birthday!
Hey, let's all say happy birthday. And cheers. And I think there's someone else. I think there's someone else who is having a birthday tomorrow, and that's James. I don't know whether James is still online, but I noticed there was a bit of chat about James.
Hello.
So
happy birthday, James.
Happy birthday, James. So yeah, congratulations on reaching whatever massive milestone that is. But yeah, thanks to everybody who's been on this evening. It's been really good fun. We've had a lot of people online. I think we got up to almost 300 actual people logging in, but obviously that's probably more like 700 people. So yeah, it's all been really good this evening. Stay on if you want to stay on. I'll be staying on, talking to people. We'll open up into rooms potentially. We've not had this many people on before, so we'll test it out, see if people can actually talk to each other. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the drinks. And I think Chris is still with us, and I don't know whether Tarquin's hanging about, but hopefully he can stay on for maybe a couple. But cheers, everybody. Yagida.
Cheers.